You spit in a tube and mailed it to a company in California. 15 million people did. That tube holds the most personal data a human being can hand over. Because it isn't only yours, it belongs to your parents, your children, cousins you've never met, who never agreed to anything. In March of 2025, that company filed for bankruptcy, and a judge put all 15 million of them up for sale. They sold for $305 million, about $20 a person. Nobody in this story has been charged with a crime. Nobody was found to have committed fraud. Everything you were about to see was legal, including who bought them. In 2021, this company was worth $6 billion. 3 years later, its stock traded at 34 cents. To understand how that happens, you have to understand what people thought they were buying and what the company knew it was building. Those were never the same thing. Ann Wojcicki founded it in 2006 with Linda Avey and Paul Kusenza. The consumer service arrived in late 2007, and the kit cost $999, a rich person's curiosity. By late 2012, it cost $99. That's the whole business model in 3 numbers. You do not drop a price by 90% to sell more kits. You drop it to acquire more people. And it worked. Kits went under Christmas trees. You found out you were 19% Scottish. You found a half-brother nobody talked about. You learned you carried a marker your doctor might want to see. For millions of families, this was genuinely, uncomplicatedly good. And somewhere in that process, you were asked a question. Would you let your genetic data be used for research? More than 80% of eligible customers said yes. Not because anyone tricked them, because it was right there and it sounded good. Cure diseases, advance science. It was true, by the way. Hold on to that. There was one problem, and it started early. In 2009, years before most of the people watching this had ever heard the name, the Food and Drug Administration began asking this company a question it did not want to answer. 6 months before the federal government ordered this company to stop selling its product, the company had stopped answering the government's letters. On the 22nd of November, 2013, a man named Alberto Gutierrez, director of the FDA's diagnostics office, signed a letter ordering 23andMe to immediately discontinue marketing its personal genome service. I went through the FDA's account of it because the popular version of this story is wrong. The agency's complaint was not that the science was fake. It was that the company had never demonstrated the test was validated for what it was being sold to do. The two sides had been in continuous negotiations since July of 2009. In May of 2013, the company stopped communicating with the agency and kept selling. On the 5th of December, the health reports went dark. For 2 years, customers got Ancestry and a raw data file, nothing else. The reports came back slowly after that, one FDA authorization at a time. And here is the part that tells you what this company actually was. It lost the product it was famous for, the health reports, the reason most people bought the kit, for 2 years. And it survived, because the kit was never the product. A $99 kit does not build a $6 billion company. The kit was the cost of acquiring the product. The product was the database. Millions of people's DNA paired with the surveys those same people filled out about their health, their habits, their families, deep, structured, and searchable. The kind of asset a drug company cannot simply go out and buy. So they didn't buy it, they rented it. In July of 2018, GlaxoSmithKline, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies on Earth, put $300 million into 23andMe, an equity stake. They bought a piece of the company, plus a 4-year drug discovery collaboration, with GSK as the exclusive partner for finding drug targets. Funding and proceeds split down the middle. At the time, the database held about 5 million customers, and roughly 80% of them had agreed to be part of research. Remember that $300 million. It comes back at the end of this story in a way you will not like. And this wasn't a paper exercise. The company hired Richard Scheller, a genuine heavyweight out of Genentech, in 2015 to run its own therapeutics division. Real scientists, real drug programs, real published research. The promise made to those customers was, by any fair reading, being kept. That is a legitimate business, and a lawful one. It is also a business in which the customers are the inventory. Inventory doesn't get consulted about what happens to it next, and in 2025, it wouldn't be. In 2023, someone got into this company's accounts. They didn't break in. They used passwords, real ones, leaked from other companies' breaches, from every place people reuse the same login. The attacker typed them at the front door, and the door opened. It began on the 29th of April, 2023. It ran for roughly 5 months before anyone noticed. State investigators later found the company's logging and monitoring were insufficient, and that unusual login patterns went uninvestigated. 14,000 accounts, about 0.1% of the customer base. That should have been the end of it, but 23andMe had a feature called DNA Relatives. You opted in, and it showed you the other customers who shared your DNA, your matches, how much you shared, how you were probably related. It was the reason a lot of people bought the kit in the first place. Once the attacker was inside 14,000 accounts, they didn't need to break into any more. They just read the family trees. Roughly 5.5 million more people were scraped that way. Another 1.4 million through family tree profiles. 14,000 doors, nearly 7 million people. An amplification of about 493 to 1. And the multiplier was the feature designed to connect families. According to the state attorneys general and the reporting that followed, among the datasets then offered for sale were lists compiled by ancestry, people with Chinese heritage, people with Ashkenazi Jewish heritage. Investigators found those groups appeared to have been specifically targeted. A database built to tell people where they came from had been used to sort them by exactly that. By the autumn of 2024, the stock was where this video started, 34 cents a share, more than 95% of its value gone. The consumer business was finished. What any buyer would be coming for was the database, and the board and the co-founder had stopped agreeing about who should own it. It had started that April. Ann Wojcicki, co-founder and chief executive, had proposed taking the company private, buy out the public shareholders, run it without them. The board said no. 5 months later, they wrote her a letter. On September 17, 2024, all 7 independent directors resigned on the same day and filed their resignation with the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'll read their words exactly because paraphrasing would be doing the company a favor. After months of work, we have yet to receive from you a fully financed, fully diligenced, actionable proposal that is in the best interests of the non-affiliated shareholders. Non-affiliated shareholders. That means everyone who owned a piece of this company except her. Every independent director, one day. Among them, Roloff Botha of Sequoia Capital. When the door closed, Wojcicki was the only board member left. 6 months after that, the company filed for bankruptcy protection. Chapter 11, Reorganize, Not Liquidate. The pharmaceutical company lost. Regeneron bid $256 million for 15 million people's DNA. It was not enough. The winning bid came from a nonprofit called the TTAM Research Institute, led by Ann Wojcicki, the co-founder, the person that resignation letter had been addressed to. 10 months after the board walked out, the database belonged to her nonprofit. The court approved the sale. Nobody alleged anything improper about it. Now, hold that price against the number I asked you to remember. In 2018, one pharmaceutical company paid $300 million for a minority stake and 4 years of exclusive access to about 5 million people's data. Roughly $60 a head for 4 years. 7 years later, 305 million bought the whole thing. The company, the database, 15 million people. About $20 a head, permanently. The court did attach conditions: enhanced security, a formal risk analysis, an advisory board, binding compliance with privacy law. The documents say without exception, and the right for customers to delete their data. Those are real protections. Every one of them arrived at the auction, not before it. For the entire life of the company, that data sat in a private database with none of these promises attached. 42 state attorneys general settled with what was left of the company, the estate, in bankruptcy language, for $18 million over the breach. A separate class settlement of $46.75 million was approved in July of 2026. And be precise about what was actually lost. For the $14,000, the attacker had the whole account. For the other $6.9 million, what leaked was the profile, your display name, how much DNA you shared with your matches, how you were probably related, sometimes your birth year, your photograph. A stranger downloaded a map of your family. Add it together, $64.75 million all in for that. The same database sold for $305 million. It was worth nearly 5 times more as an asset than it cost as a liability. Now remember the box you ticked. Cure diseases. Advance science. That was true. The research never stopped. It simply changed hands at a bankruptcy auction to a buyer whose name nobody who ticked that box had ever heard. 15 million people were told they were joining a study. They were, it turns out, joining a balance sheet. There is a federal law that protects your genetic data from your health insurer and from your employer. It does not protect you from your life insurer. It's called the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, and the protection it does give is real. Your health insurer cannot use genetic data against you, and neither can your employer as long as that employer has 15 or more people on staff. It does not cover life insurance. It does not cover long-term care insurance. It does not cover disability insurance. For those three, under federal law, using genetic and family health information in pricing and coverage decisions is lawful. That's not a loophole anyone exploited. It's how the statute was written. Some states go further. Search your own state's genetic privacy law, because the federal floor is lower than most people assume. And you can delete your data. That option existed before the bankruptcy. State attorneys general were urging people to use it back in March of 2025. What the sale changed is that the deletion promise is now binding on whoever owns the database. It's in your account settings under Privacy. If you want your raw data file, download it before you delete. Deletion takes that with it. And there is a harder limit worth saying out loud because this video started with it. Deleting your account does not delete what your relatives' kits already revealed about you. And it does not remove what yours already revealed about them. You can withdraw your sample. You cannot withdraw your family. That part was never yours alone to opt out of, which is exactly why it mattered who ended up owning the database. Next case. A restaurant chain Americans genuinely loved filed for bankruptcy in 2024, and everyone agreed on the reason. They gave away too much shrimp. The filings say something else entirely. New case every Wednesday.